one for myself. And when you were ready, one for you. Today is that day.
So I'm a man now. Like you?
No. We are not men. We are more than that. The responsibility is far greater.
God of War feels like a story you're allowed to walk through. Alongside a child who barely speaks to you, the story doesn't really rush to be heard, and doesn't immediately demand your attention, but it's one that slowly waits. Forests stretch out, rivers and lakes carry you through the planet, and as you move through the game, you realize the beauty of this world isn't what is immediately happening, but in how the game makes you feel Kratos' story. I had heard so many good things about God of War 2018 that it almost seemed like there was no possible way it could meet all those expectations. It won Game of the Year, had a massive AAA budget, top tier visuals and cinematics, but was it really that special? I bought it in 2025 on a deep discount on Steam, and I took a break from some of the longer traditional RPG games I was playing. And I decided to jump into the game and decide for myself why or if the game was really that special.
No. Finish what you started.
I can't.
At the start, they move like strangers who just share the same road. If Atreus was older, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell that they were related. Kratos walks with purpose. Every step he takes is direct, confident, and efficient, you could say. While Atreus seems to follow always slightly out of sync, stopping to look and ask questions to understand, most of which are ignored. The world keeps putting them together, but it doesn't feel like it's by their choice. The game doesn't start off particularly fast-paced, but you do learn early on that this is going to be a father-son journey. I'm not sure about everyone else, but I wasn't immediately hooked on the storyline. From the very first scenes, Kratos and his son Atreus are physically together, but you can tell emotionally quite distant. Kratos gives cold instructions while Atreus asks questions, usually met with silence or frustration. As the story moves on, something begins to change. Atreus starts watching how Kratos moves, and Kratos begins communicating with him back. Over time, these physical and emotional barriers begin to shrink. There is no shortage of cinematics or cutscenes in the game, but the subtle changes in their father-son dynamic make it feel very real. And perhaps the real reason Kratos is so restrained in God of War 2018 is because deep down he knows what happens when fathers rule through fear. He's terrified of becoming his own father, Zeus, because of what tragically happened before.
You're nothing to me!
Boy, look at me! Look at me, boy! Boy, look at me. You are not ready.
You see, Kratos can't be killed. Blades, monsters, or even gods, none of it truly threatens him anymore. He can endure what would destroy anyone else. He seems to always get back up, no matter the barrier or obstacle he faces. And the world treats him like something inevitable, you could say, not something fragile. And yet, nothing in the world frightens him more than his past self. Every fight can be over quickly and even decisively. There's no doubt in his strength, his combat skills, or even questions of his survival ability. But the moment violence ends, something else lingers. Not triumph or relief. There's not even a giant victory or cheerful act, just restraint. And the effort it takes to stop himself from going further than he really needs to. Kratos isn't even afraid of dying. He's afraid of his past repeating itself. He knows what he's capable of, but he has to somehow hold himself back. Because he fears he will reveal his old self if he loses complete control, even a bit. So he keeps himself contained. His words are measured, his movements controlled, his anger throughout the game is redirected into silence, for better or worse. You can tell that even when he speaks, he worries about revealing too much of his past. Even his own immortality offers no escape to this growing burden. He can cross realms, defeat gods, but he somehow can't outrun his own memory. It walks with him and shapes every decision he makes throughout the game. The true conflict in God of War isn't whether Kratos will survive his journey, but whether he can survive being who he really is. He can't be killed, but he can still be internally broken.
Come here. Can you finish that story you started?
We need only conclude the Song of Bergelmir, founder of Jotunheim, who chose love instead of revenge.
God of War 2018 is rarely ever in a hurry. Not because it lacks urgency, but because it kind of refuses to let urgency take control of the game. From the very beginning of the journey, you move at the world's pace. You trudge through the snow instead of sprinting, squeezing through narrow spaces. You climb slowly, hand over hand, and you feel the weight of every movement of Kratos and the world around you. Boat rides were one of my favorite ways to explore the world, as I'm sure many share the same feeling. They don't feel rushed, the water around you is calm, and even dialogue slowly trickles in. You can hear the oars in the water as, Mimir tells you rich stories about Norse mythology, and it never feels like pointless filler in the game, no matter how many times you do it. But the world constantly does this. It places objects in your way, not to always challenge your skill, but your patience. After almost every brutal fight, it pauses combat and silence settles, instead of just cutting to the next fight. Victory doesn't rush you forward, but it leaves you still standing there, listening and waiting before moving on. Even the camera angles refuse to look away in the game. There are no hard cuts, no sudden jumps, or even any loading screens if you don't die somehow. It acts as one long shot so you don't miss or escape any moments. The colorful Witch's Woods, the massive Lake of Nine, or the dangerous but colorful area of Alfheim. Each location has a much deeper meaning to the overall narrative. God of War understands something that most games don't. If you move too fast, you don't feel anything. So, it built a world that won't let you rush through it. It won't let you skip discomfort or let you outrun Kratos' past. It slows you down until you're finally moving at the speed the story needs or requires.
You do not want this fight.
pretty sure I do.
Leave my home.
Violence in God of War is never a question of if, only when. I mean, Kratos is literally the fucking God of War. Kratos doesn't enter fights with excitement and anticipation. There is no build-up, and there really isn't much of a hesitation either. He even looks to give people often ways out of fights, because he knows how it will end for them. There's no moment where Kratos pauses to even admire what he's done afterward. No victory pose, no relief. When a body hits the ground, there isn't a cheer. Everything just goes quiet. Violence isn't glorious for Kratos, it's just routine. It isn't something Kratos reaches for, but it always seems just around the corner for him. There are no speech skills or charisma stats. Violence is what he's good at, and inevitably, he can't avoid using it. Kratos is constantly restraining himself. Not because he's weak, but because he knows what happens when he stops trying to restrain himself. Every fight carries that risk of awakening something old, familiar, and dangerous from his own past. He's very conscious of where constant violence will lead. This can even be shown when Atreus begins to lose control and resort to violence early on. For a game that is literally called God of War, it seems like Kratos really does try to avoid it at times. Throughout the story, we get glimpses into Kratos' past as he tries to bury and hide it. But it becomes very apparent that the longer he buries his past, the more consequential it becomes for him and Atreus. Until this conflict reaches its climax and Kratos is forced to embrace it. And it just so happens that simultaneously you unlock Kratos' awesome Blades of Chaos at the exact same time. God of War really isn't about the monsters, redemption, or even fighting gods. It's about Kratos' legacy. Kratos already knows how his story ends. With loss, with blood, and regret. What he doesn't know is whether Atreus has to inherit the same ending as himself. Every act of restraint, every moment of silence, every step through the beautiful world, Kratos has the same thing on his mind. What part of me will survive through my son? Why violence feels like a plague rather than glory to Kratos. Why he buries his past. Why the world never lets him rush forward. God of War is about a man who cannot change. In the end, Kratos is full of regret, and he's trying to give Atreus a life different from his own.